Okay guys, your lesson today is to be able to find the area of a circle. When we find the area of a circle, we use a formula. The formula for the area of a circle is here. It says that the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. We're also going to be finding the area of semicircles. Semicircle is half of a circle. The formula for the area of a semicircle is simply 1/2 of pi r squared. Right? The area of an entire circle is pi r squared, so if we want to find the area of half of a circle, which we call a semicircle, we take 1/2 of the pi times the radius squared. All right, let's take a look at our first example here. Okay, we have a circle, and we're given that the radius of the circle is 7 centimeters. We're asked to find the area of the circle, and we're asked to use 22/7 as our approximation for pi. So anytime we find the area of a circle, we always start by writing our formula. So the formula is going to be that the area of circle is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared. We're told to use 22/7 for pi. So I'm going to take pi and replace it with 22/7. And for r, we're given 7, so I'm going to replace r with 7, and we're going to have to square that. Now, 7 squared is 49, so the area is going to be equal to 22/7 times 7 squared, which is 7 times 7, or 49. All right, we put 49 over 1. We divide out where we can. 7 and 49 we can divide out by 7. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 49 divided by 7 is 7. Now to find the area, we simply multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, and the area is going to be 22 times 7, which is 154 square centimeters. All right, so our first example. Let's try another one. We're asked to find the area of the circle, but instead of using 22/7 as our approximation for pi, we're asked to use 3.14 as our approximation for pi. All right. As always, anytime we use a formula, we always start by writing the formula. So area is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared. Area is going to be equal to, we're told to use 3.14 for pi, so I'm going to replace pi with 3.14. The radius here is 2, but remember to square the radius. A lot of times students will forget to square that radius. It's pi times the radius squared. Now, depending upon the calculators that you're using, we do need to use the order of operations. So if you're using the wrong type of calculator, your calculator is going to multiply 3.14 times 2 first, then it's going to square it. We have to be sure to use the order of operations, so we have to do the exponents first before we do this multiplication step. So we're going to do the exponent first. 2 squared is going to be 4. So this is going to be 3.14 times 4, and we multiply 3.14 times 4. Our area is going to be equal to 12.56, and those are square inches. All right, and as always, we like to circle or box our answer. All right. Next example, we want to find the area of a circle. We're told to use 3.14 for pi, but we're not given the radius this time. We're given the diameter of the circle. Well, in order to find the area of a circle, there's only one formula that we can use. Area is pi times the radius squared. So we have to find that radius. So we go back to previous lessons, and we know that the radius is 1/2 of the diameter. So if the diameter here is 26, I know that the radius is going to be half of 26, so my radius is going to be 13. And that's what we have to use in our area formula. We have to use that the radius is 13. Right? So that's what we're going to do. So area is going to be equal to, we're told to use 3.14 for pi. The radius is going to be 13. I'm going to square that. Area is going to be equal to, make sure that you multiply 13 times 13 first. So that's going to be 3.14 13 times 13 is 169, and then we multiply 3.14 times 169. Area is going to be 530.66, and those are square inches. Make sure that when you're doing these problems at home, make sure that you're able to punch the numbers in the calculator in the correct order, and that you're able to get the answers that we're getting here on paper. Alright, so just double check, right, and be sure about that. Okay, why don't you guys try a couple of examples on your own. You could stop the video if you want, and then try these next two problems, and then turn the video back on to see how you guys did with these two problems. Alright, so why don't you stop the video at this point, but I'm going to continue. Alright, so if you did the problems on your own, let's check them. Problem number 1 says to find the area of a circle with a radius of 6 feet. We're told to use 3.14 for pi. So hopefully you start by writing the formula. Area is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared. Area is going to be equal to, we're told to use 3.14 for pi. The radius here is going to be 6, and we have to square that. So area is going to be equal to 3.14. 6 squared is 36. And remember, be careful, we have to do that exponent before we do the multiplication step because of the order of operations. So if we do that correctly, area is going to be equal to 113 and 400ths. Those are square feet. And one thing I have not mentioned yet, and I should have, so shame on me, make sure that we're using square units because we are working with area. Okay? And let's do problem number 2. Write our formula. Area is going to be pi times the radius squared. Area is going to be, we're told to use 22 over 7 for pi, so I'm going to replace pi with 22 over 7. The radius here, well, if we're told the diameter is 28, we need to take half of that diameter to find the radius, so the radius is going to be 14 meters. Right? Remember that we have to use the radius measurement in our formula. Right? Don't get caught using the diameter in the formula. That's a common place where students are going to make mistakes. We want to use the radius. So remember, if you're given the diameter, make sure you take half of that to find the radius. So radius is going to be 14, and we're going to square that. Now we're told to use 22 over 7 for pi. So anytime we're asked to use 22 over 7 for pi, I always like for my students to try to do the problems without a calculator so that you practice your computation skills with your fractions. So the next step is going to look like this. Right? 22 over 7. 14 squared is 14 times 14. That is 196. Alright? We put that over 1. We can divide out 7 and 196. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 196 divided by 7, that's going to be 28. And now to find the area, we're just going to multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So the area is going to be equal to 22 times 28, which is going to be 616. And those are going to be square meters. Alright? Make sure that you're using square units when you write your answer. Make sure that we are doing the exponent first before we do the multiplication, right? And make sure that we're using the radius in our measurements. Those are all the places where students are usually going to make mistakes. So just be aware when you're writing those measurements, please. Okay, next example. It says, you want to find the distance the monster truck travels when the tires make one 360-degree rotation. Which best describes the distance? Well, one 360-degree rotation, we're looking for the circumference of the tire. So the circumference of the tire, right, would be C. You want to find the height of one of the tires. Which measurement would best describe the height of the tire? Well, the height of the tire would be, right, this distance here, right? You see my red line in the diagram. And what measurement of the circle would that be? That would be diameter, right? So if we're looking for the height of the tire, the diameter would be the best description for the height of the tire. Okay, let's continue with some more examples. All right, we want to find the area of the semicircle. Well, the area of the semicircle we notice that the area of the semicircle is this area here, and it is 1/2 of the area of the circle. So the area of a semicircle is going to be 1/2 pi r squared, right? Because we only need half of the area of the circle. So to find the area of the circle, we're going to need 1/2. We're told to use 3.14 for pi. Our radius here is going to be half of the diameter. So if the diameter is 16, the radius we're going to have to use here is going to be 8 inches. So we're going to use 8 in our formula, but we have to square that. So if we do 1/2 times 3.14 times 8 squared, and we have to divide that by 2 or take 1/2 of that, that's going to be equal to 100.48, and those are square inches, right? Common mistake when we're finding the area of the semicircle, right? Don't forget to take 1/2 of pi r squared. We get so used to taking or finding the area using pi times r times or pi times the radius squared. When we're asked to find the area of a semicircle, we just forget to take 1/2. So it's going to be one more thing that we have to be aware of when we do these problems. All right. Okay, our next example here, we want to find the area of the semicircular orchestra pit. The area of the orchestra pit is 1/2 the area of the circle with a diameter of 30 feet. All right. So if the diameter is 30, we know that the radius here is going to be 15. Right, and that's what we're going to use in our formula. So the area is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared, but we're going to take half of that. All right. Now, if you notice in the previous example, I wrote my formula this way. Area is going to be 1/2 times pi times r squared to find the area of the semicircle. But I can also write my formula this way: pi times r squared divided by 2. Right? Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. Right? So get used to seeing the formula written different ways, because different people are going to present it different ways to you. But it is the same formula, and mathematically you're going to get the same answer. So this problem, I wrote my formula for the area of the semicircle as pi times the radius squared divided by 2. So area is going to be equal to, are we told what to use for pi? We are not. So if we're not told what to use for pi, usually we should just use that in 3.14. My radius is going to be 15, and we're going to have to square that, but then we have to divide that by 2. So when we multiply 15 squared times 3.14, right, that's the calculation you'd have to do first, because you have to do this exponent first before you do this multiplication. So 15 squared is 15 times 15, which is 225. 225 times 3, then divided by 2, we wind up with 353.25 square feet, right? And make sure that you guys are punching these numbers in the calculators, and make sure that you guys are getting the same answers, or just use the calculators in your Chromebook. All right, so we've done a couple of examples for the semicircles. I'd ask you guys to stop the video at this point and try to do these 3 problems here, finding the area of the semicircle. 2 of the problems you're given the diameter, 1 of the problems you're given the radius. All right, why don't you guys try those on your own, and then turn the video on in a few minutes, and then check your answers and see how you did. All right. Okay. So let's come back. I'll start with problem number 4 here. Problem number 4, we're finding the area of the circle. So first I'm going to write my formula. Area is going to be equal to 1/2 times pi times the radius squared. Area is going to be equal to 1/2. We'll use 3.14 times my radius. Well, if my diameter here is 8, that's pretty bad radius. I can't do that. That's pretty bad. All right, let's use a straight segment here. Right? If my diameter is 8, then my radius is going to be 4. So that's what we're going to have to use in our formula, and we're going to have to square that. So if we multiply 4 squared first, because we have to do the exponent, so 4 squared is 16 times 3.14, and then we take half of that, we wind up with 25.12, and those are square meters for problem number 5, or 4. Problem number 5, I'll change colors here a bit. Right? Make sure though that we are using our radius measurement. Half of 5 is going to be 2.5 for our radius, so just make sure we're using that number. Right, our formula, area is going to be equal to pi times r squared divided by 2. Once again, I'm just going to remind you, I'm going to write the formula different ways just so you guys can get used to seeing that the formula for the area of a semicircle can be written 2 different ways. 1/2 pi times r squared is the same as pi times r squared over 2. Area is going to be equal to, for pi we're going to use 3.14. My radius here is going to be 4. We're going to have to square that, but don't forget to divide that by 2 because we're finding the area of a semicircle. Area is going to be equal to 4 squared is 16. I'm sorry, my mistake. We're doing problem 5, so let me redo that. All right, problem 5, 2.5 is the radius here, so let me fix that. That's 2.5 for our radius, so it's going to be 2.5 squared times 3.14, divide that by 2, and we wind up with 9.8125. Those are square yards. Right, and just as I almost made a mistake there, right, substituting my numbers, we just have to be careful. That's another common mistake people are going to make, right, where we just substitute the wrong value, right? So just double check, make sure that everything's correct there. Problem 6, area is equal to 1/2 times pi times r squared. We're actually given the radius this time, which is 11, so area is going to be equal to 1/2 times 3.14 for pi times our radius, which is 11. We're going to square that. So area is going to be equal to 11 squared is 121 times 3, but then we have to take half of that or divide that by 2, and we should get 189.97, and those are square centimeters. All right. So hopefully you guys were successful with those problems. Right, it's always good to try to do those problems on your own and then check to see how we did them. All right. Now these last 3 problems are kind of funky. I decided to include them in the lesson just because it's always neat to kind of do some things that are a little bit different. All right. So these are actually areas of shaded regions that involve areas of circles and the formula for the area of a circle. So let's play around a little bit with some of these problems. Let's look at 16. Now, you're asked to find the area of the shaded region. Well, the shaded region is this yellow region in here. It is the region inside of this circle, but outside of this circle. Now, I always like to kind of show this, to my students when we do these problems. So let me see if I can be successful and do this and, kind of shade in my circle here. All right. So I'm going to shade in my circle here, and then we take a look at it and say, okay, if we want to find the area of the shaded region, first thing we'd have to do is to find the area of this entire green region here, right? And this green region here is a circle whose diameter is equivalent to this 12 here. So that would be a radius of 6, right? So that's an area of a circle with a radius of 6. Now, in order to find the area that's shaded, watch what I'm going to have to do here electronically. I am going to remove, right, this area in here, and when I remove that area in here, look what's left. What's left is the area that's shaded. All right, so what did I just do there? I found the area of a circle with a diameter of 12, and I removed or subtracted the area of the circle with a diameter of 8. So that's what we simply want to do mathematically. Just what we did there electronically, we want to do mathematically. So step 1, we want to find the area of the entire circle. Right? So I'm going to put this back, right, put the green back here. All right, in step 1, we're finding the area of this entire circle. Right? So the area of the entire circle is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared. So the area is going to be equal to 3.14. Now my radius of this entire circle is this radius, or half of the diameter here. So I'm going to draw that so we could see that, right? That's going to be the circle with a radius of 6. So my radius is going to be 6, and we're going to have to square that. So area is going to be equal to, for the entire circle, 113.04. And those are square meters. That's the area of the entire circle. Now I'm just going to underline that area there. Let's call that area 1. Okay, now we're going to also have to find the area of this inside circle here. We're going to call that area 2. Area 2, same formula, pi times r squared. And I really should have called each of these area 1s as well, because that's the first area that we're finding, the area of the entire circle, that entire green area. Now, we're going to find area 2. Area 2 is this one here. So area 2, let's undo that. Area 2 is going to be in red. This is area 2 in here. Area 1 was, right, this entire green. Area 2 is just this circle in here now. That's what we're finding, this area here. So area 2 is going to be equal to pi times r squared. Area 2 is going to be equal to 3.14. Now your radius of that circle, if the diameter is 8, the radius is going to be half that. It's going to be 4. I'm going to square that. So area 2 is going to be equal to 4 squared is 16 times 3. That's 50.24. Those are square meters. Now, next step. Step 3, shaded area. Now, almost always, when you're asked to find the area of a shaded region, almost always you're going to have to subtract something. You know, that's another kind of hint I should let you guys know. If you're asked to find the area of a shaded region, almost always you're going to have to subtract. So the shaded area is going to be equal to area 1 minus area 2. Because watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take area 2 away right now. So when I take area 2 away, right, this is what it looks like. When I take area 2 away, what's going to be left is, right, what's going to be left is area 1. Right, that's what's left when I take area 2 away. Right, area 1 is going to be left. So area 1 is our shaded area. So we have to take our 113.04. We're going to subtract the 50.24, and we wind up with 62.8. Those are square meters. Right? So those problems are a little bit more fun to do when we have to think a little bit and do a few steps. Right? And I have a couple more examples like that we'd have to do. All right. So if we take a look at problem 17, right, first thing we'd have to do is to find, let me undo that, it's probably better to use the shaded part. First thing we're going to have to do is to find the area of the entire square. Alright, so we're going to have to find this area first. Right, the area of the entire square. Well, the area of that entire square includes, right, the area of the circle. Alright, and once again, if I find the area of that entire square and then I take away, right, if I take away the area of the circle, what's going to be left is the area that's going to be shaded. So that's going to be the mathematical process we use. We find the area of the square, we find the area of the circle, and then we subtract the two. Because when we subtract the two, what's left here is the area that's shaded. Alright? So let's start with area 1. Area 1 is going to be the whole entire area of the square. So the area square is equal to the length of the side squared, because it's a square. So area 1 is going to be 5.25 times 5.25, right? Because that is the length of the side squared, means it's the length of the side times itself, right? So area 1 is going to be equal to, when we multiply 5.25 times 5.25, we wind up with 27.5625. And those are square inches. Then we have to find area 2. Area 2 is going to be the area of the circle. So that's going to be pi times r squared. Area 2 is going to be equal to 3.14 times your radius. Well, what's your radius? Your radius is half of this diameter. The diameter you're given is 5.25, so you have to take a calculator and divide 5.25 by half, and you get a radius of 2.625. Alright, 2.625 for the radius. So that's going to be 2.625. I'm going to have to square that. Area 2 is going to be equal to 21.637. Alright, 21.637. And those are also square inches. So once again, I want to find the shaded area. So the shaded area, right, is going to be equal to area 1 minus area 2. So shaded area equals area 1 minus area 2. So that's going to be 27.5625 minus the 21.637. When we subtract them, we wind up with 5.9255, and those are square inches for the area of our shaded region. Alright? Now, if you guys want to try this last one on your own, go ahead and give it a shot, right? It's a little tricky, but, try it, do what you can, and then turn the video back on and check it, right? But I'm going to do problem 18 here. Now, when we do problem 18, we're going to have to first find the area of this entire circle, and then subtract the area of these two smaller circles, right? So that's what we're going to do here. So area 1 is going to be the area of the large circle. So that's going to be pi times r squared. Area 1 is going to be equal to 3.14. Now the radius of the largest circle is going to be half of the 12.5. So with your calculators, you take the 12.5 and you take half of it. That's going to be 6.25. Right? But we're squaring that. Area 1 is going to be equal to 6.25 squared times pi. You get 122.7, and those are square centimeters. So that's the area of the entire circle. But now we want to subtract 2 of those circles. So area 2 is going to be equal to pi r squared, but we have 2 of those circles, so I'm going to multiply that by 2. So area 2 is going to be equal to 2 times the 3.14 times the radius. Now your radius is going to be half of 3.5 because you're given the diameter of the circle is 3.5, so the radius is going to be half of that. Half of that is 1.75, and we're going to square that. So area 2 is going to be equal to 1.75 times itself times 3.14 times 2, and we wind up with 19.2. Those are square centimeters. So once again, I need the shaded area, right? So my shaded area, right, we have to subtract those two. So the shaded area is going to be equal to area 1 minus area 2. So my shaded area is going to be 122.7 minus the 19.2, and we wind up with 103.5 square centimeters. All right. Now I know that there was a lot in that lesson, right? There were some kind of neat things to do in there, right? Some cool problems, right? You guys do your best with the problems that I selected. I started with easy problems today, right? Nothing real crazy. So, do those problems and submit them. And then tomorrow with the lesson video, I'll start off with the solutions to the problems that you worked on today. And then I'll give you guys some more problems to do. All right. Hopefully that's been helpful, and we'll see you soon.